Everyone to take their seats, that would be great. Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Eugene's April 10th, 2026 program, County Commissioner Candidate Forum. My name is Alyssa Gilbert, President of the City Club of Eugene, and it's my honor to welcome you to another of many forums we've held since 1990 in the name of our mission to build community vision through open inquiry. City Club creates access to our local leaders and provides a platform for Eugene area community members to be heard. In light of the division we're experiencing in the world, I believe it's important now more than ever for us to gather as a community with curious minds and mutual respect. This space to listen, ask, learn, and gather is what City Club aims to provide to our community each week. We would love for you to browse our past programs at cityclubofeugene.org or our YouTube or Facebook. Please consider becoming a member if you'd like to support our rigorous volunteer work as Oregon's only city club that provides weekly forums. There are many ways to partner with us, and I'd like to thank our community sponsors. The University of Oregon has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically since 1876. Get more information at uoregon.edu. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu. Thank you to Lane County for their generous support and to our web host, 9 Planets, whose website support is critical to our functioning, making it easy to sign up as a member or to learn more about us. As a quick reminder, please silence all cell phones in the hall. And with that, I turn the mic over to the coordinator of today's program, City Club Program Committee Chair, Joel Corin.
Good afternoon. There are 3 positions on the ballot for county commissioners this year. Position 1, West Lane, the candidates are Ryan Seneca and Thomas Iura. Position 5, East Lane, the candidates are Heather Buck, Jake Pelroy, Bob Syback. We will be having a forum today on those 2 positions. There is also the Springfield seat, and the Springfield City Club will be having a program with those candidates next Thursday at noon at Roaring Rapids. The East Lane County District includes Cottage Grove, Presswell, Coburg, Oak Ridge, Lovell, and Westfir, and portions of southwest Eugene, and the unincorporated communities of Goshen, Pleasant Hill, and Dexter, Waterville, Blue River, Mackenzie Bridge, and Marcola. The candidates who are here today ready to speak are incumbent Heather Buck and challenger Rob Syback. Jake Pelroy, the 3rd candidate, was invited but never responded. Position 1 includes Western Lane County and includes Florence, Veneta, Junction City, and some portions of Eugene. The candidates for that position are Ryan Seneca, who advised us he had a conflict he couldn't change, and Thomas Iura, who is here today. The moderator for today's program is KLCC's Rebecca Hanson-White, and I'll now invite the candidates and Rebecca to the stage.
All right, well, thank you so much, Joel and Alyssa, and our candidates for joining us today. And thank you, City Club. We're going to start out with opening statements, which we'll start those with Heather Buck.
Can you hear me? Very good. Well, thank you to the City Club for putting on this forum today. It's easy to get disillusioned with politics these days. We wake up every morning and read about this dysfunction, chaos, and corruption in our federal government. This federal administration is cutting health care and emergency funding, and that hits small towns in Lane County. As your commissioner, I'm fighting to deliver on the basics: expanded economic opportunities, affordable local health care, housing, and reliable public safety. I've utilized my position to ensure that we have received Critical Cares Act, American Rescue Plan, and FEMA funding. I've worked with 2 emergency operations centers simultaneously and set aside politics to partner with mayors and local leaders to save lives. During the aftermath of the Holiday Farm fire and local leaders, I have successfully secured over $27 million in disaster relief funding and waived over $1 million in permit fees for those who are looking to rebuild. I'm also focused on housing affordability, solutions for our unsheltered neighbors, and strengthening public safety. I've expanded the number of our sheriff patrols to ensure better coverage for rural county residents. I've helped open the South Lane Healthcare Clinic in Cottage Grove, and I'm currently working to open a mental health stabilization center for those experiencing a mental health care crisis. I'm also a mother, a military spouse, and a housing advocate. I was born and raised in rural Lane County to a single mother. I spent my professional career working as a small business owner, specializing in affordable housing, and working as special projects director for St. Vincent de Paul of Lane County. I love my job, and I'm not done fighting for Lane County families. It's an honor to be your commissioner, and I hope I can earn your vote on May 19th.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Rebecca, for moderating, and I really appreciate the City Club of Eugene for putting on this forum for the Lane County Commission candidates. My name is Thomas Hura. If you've been listening to City Club, you may have heard me as the president for most of the past year, and in order to run for Lane County Commission, I had to make sure we had a good succession plan in place and then follow the City Club bylaws in order to leave the board in order to run for a county office. So a lot of people are just now getting to know me. My name is Thomas Hura, but I have been planning to pursue this seat for quite some time, and I'm very much excited to bring a challenge and bring a choice to the West Lane District. I want to see greater accountability and transparency and a West Lane that truly serves the whole region, not just any narrow subgroup of voters or not just any particular part of the urban core. I want to see everybody in the West Lane District able to access the kind of services that we all depend on, and as a lifelong Lane County resident, the services that I've depended on throughout so much of my life. That includes affordable housing and the means to build it, both in the rural areas and in the urban core. Public safety, accessible public safety that's responsive to the community and that's not just going to have huge response times where people aren't going to come out unless somebody's bleeding, which is one of the things that I've heard from West Lane residents as I've been campaigning throughout the district. Also, climate readiness and preparedness, particularly against disasters, is a very important issue for West Lane, and I really want to improve that capacity that we have, despite the federal environment here where we have to fight for every dollar for our programs to continue to invest in emergency response and climate readiness. And also healthcare is an essential service that the county provides and is charged by the state to provide. In my opinion, we need to protect reproductive health care, maternity care, elder care, dental, physical, and certainly mental health care is also very important to me. So I've been endorsed by many individuals in the community and organizations, and I'm excited to talk more about that, including 6 of the 7 members of the Lane ESD board, where I serve as a school board member, and I'm excited to continue to work for improving rural school districts' access to technological and administrative support, and I'm excited to further their ability to access those needs as a county commissioner.
Lane County, is that on? Can you hear me? Okay. Lane County needs to get back to work and off welfare. There's a golden logger on top of the state capitol for a reason. For generations, Oregon families, businesses, schools, roads, and police depended on forestry, mining, and commercial fishing industries to support some of the finest and safest schools, parks, towns, and forest recreation opportunities in history. In 1990, that changed abruptly with the spotted owl politics and litigation. Then 10 years later, our schools, roads, and police went on federal welfare through PILT and SRS allotments paid by U.S. taxpayers in order to partly compensate for lost timber revenues. The results have been predictable. My campaign focus is to resolve these problems by returning to active management of our public forests for purposes of reducing catastrophic wildfire risk, producing full-time rural jobs, restoring our forest, old growth, and native wildlife populations, and eliminating the need for PILT and SRS welfare payments to our schools and police. Lane County is one of the most heavily forested counties in the world and contains some of the finest timber-growing soils and weather in history, and most of it is being openly wasted at a tremendous cost to U.S. taxpayers and an even greater cost to rural Lane County residents. These are national issues played out at a local level. If our forests were being actively and sustainably managed again for future generations, as originally outlined by law and successfully practiced by earlier generations, it would greatly reduce wildfire risks, wildlife mortality, deadly air pollution, and ugly landscapes, while greatly increasing local job and recreational opportunities and significantly more funding for our county schools, roads, and police. We know how to fix this mess. Our parents and grandparents showed us how.
All right, thank you, candidates. And now we'll get to the questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question. And we'll start our questions with Thomas Hura. While each of you are running to represent a specific district, you'll also be a part of a body, the Board of County Commissioners, that sets policy county-wide. Keeping that in mind, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing Lane County?
There's a whole great deal of challenges, particularly in this federal environment. But I would say that one of the main things that throughout the county, not just the West Lane community where I grew up and that's been my home, but everybody wants to feel like this is a county commission where there's trust and accountability and that they're able to work together on the issues that we all depend on across the political aisle. And right now I've been sort of concerned with some of the leadership we've seen for the last couple of years, which is why I decided to step up, because accountability in our system in the United States of America kind of only comes at the ballot box. And we've seen times when commissioners feel that they can sort of do whatever they please without accountability. And I want to make sure that we actually have a commission where I can utilize my teamwork and collaboration skills in order to restore trust, frankly. As a lifelong resident, it's very important to me. I want to raise my family here, and I want to see that this is a county commission that's functioning and serving the whole group. So in so many ways that I've been able to collaborate as a vice chair of the Human Rights Commission for Eugene, on the Willamette Natural Area Citizens Planning Committee, as a government relations chair, as president of the City Club of Eugene. I'm a great teamwork, team collaborator, and that's what I want to bring.
All right, and then Bob, you'll take this question next. I can read it again if you'd like me to. All right. While each of you are running to represent a specific district, you'll also be a part of a body, the Board of County Commissioners, that sets policy county-wide. Keeping that in mind, what do you think is the biggest issue facing Lane County?
I think the main thing we need is to reopen our forests to active management again. We've got ONC lands that could create 7,000 or 8,000 jobs immediately, produce tens of millions for our schools, roads, and police. The federal forests have been shut down. We burned up 400,000 acres of East Lane County in just the last 5 years, and nothing's been done about it on the federal lands. We need 1,000 or 2,000 people working full-time to fix this mess. It's been going on for 30 years, and it needs to stop.
And then Heather Buck?
Thank you. We have multiple issues at the county level that we are working on simultaneously at any given point in time. The top issues that have raised to our level that need our attention and care are housing production and affordability, access to health care, including mental health care, and being able to expand our public safety services so all of rural Lane County can be covered with adequate patrol. We have been working on these issues and we continue to make real inroads. While we're seeing at the national level the gutting of Medicaid and Medicare for our healthcare clinics, we have expanded into Cottage Grove with our first federally qualified healthcare clinic. And we continue to serve up to 30,000 people at our 8 federally qualified healthcare clinics. And we're working on a mental health stabilization center in Springfield.
All right. And then this next question, Mr. Zybak, you'll take this one first. Oregon has a reputation as not being a business-friendly state. Our governor has a task force working on that, and there are similar efforts on the local level to spark economic development. As a commissioner, how might you work to make Lane County friendlier to business and investment?
I think the main problem we've had for the last 35 years is all the businesses shutting down. We need more jobs, and there's plenty of work that needs to be done. So I think working with the Bureau of Land Management and the U.S. Forest Service is critical. We have a new U.S. Wildland Fire Service that needs to be paid attention to. We've got too much of the county burning up. The toxic smoke coming from these fires is killing an estimated 40,000 people a year in the United States. So the amount of smoke that they've gotten in Oak Ridge and West Fir is at a toxic level, but that smoke has traveled to Seattle and made it the most air polluted major city in the world. This needs to stop. There's lots of opportunity for cogeneration, sawmill, tree planting, logging, trucking, road building, campground maintenance jobs. We need to get back to work.
All right, Ms. Buck, you'll take this question next.
Thank you. Most people don't know that we have a team of economic development advisors at the county, and there are lots of things that we can do at the county level to help spur business. Some of those things that I'm proud to have been able to work on is a focused attention on industrial land readiness for advanced manufacturing. We've been able to work on grants and prepare industrial sites, such as a $2 million seal forgivable loan for Coburg. We're also doing a focused attention to draw new capital investment and retain existing industry in Lane County. These are strategic investments meant to help places like Sierra Pacific and Weyerhaeuser in the South Lane area. In addition to that, we also focus our effort to address rural infrastructure. Some places are unable to develop. Crestwell and Junction City have housing moratoriums, largely because their wastewater systems cannot expand in those particular areas without additional resources. So we are working diligently with those communities so that they can expand those wastewater systems and advance additional development.
Thank you. I think that rural economic development has been overlooked in this county and in the West Lane District for some time, and I really believe that we can actually bring people to the table from our rural and coastal communities to access some of those economic development opportunities. A lot of people have thriving businesses, but they're just maybe a little bit tucked away in areas where they could have more clientele if we had greater transportation infrastructure out towards the coast, for example. There's only one commissioner who serves all of Coastal Lane. It's the West Lane District Commissioner. And so when those business owners and those business leaders in those rural and coastal communities want to talk about how they can better afford to have those economic development opportunities, they have that one person to talk to. And I want to be very, very active throughout the district and improve that. I also think that there is not as strong a tension as we often think between the climate justice communities and the business communities, because both are looking out for a different component of how we're able to thrive in this community, bring in tax revenue, and ultimately have a community that's sustainable long term.
All right, and Ms. Buck, you'll take this next question first. Our public safety system is struggling. There are only a handful of deputies patrolling in the unincorporated area. Our district attorney's office, as we heard recently at City Club, is understaffed, and other areas like parole, probation, and youth services are under-resourced. If you're elected as a county commissioner, how will you work to address these resource gaps and ensure people arrested and victims of crime can get justice?
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, that is one of the top issues that is facing the county commissioners at this point. In my first 2 terms, I'm proud to have voted for more patrol. And in addition to that, the public safety aspect is a system-wide issue. So we have been able to make some inroads on emergency response communication, our advancement of a deflection program, helping people move out of the criminal justice system and into services to help them live more productive lives, and been able to expand our mobile crisis. We know that we also need additional patrol on the roads in our rural community. So we're working on recommendations from a recent public safety task force, and we are going to be out meeting with the community over the summertime, discussing particular options that could help utilize and save money, as well as being able to expand patrol.
All right. Mr. Hira?
Thank you. Yes, this is an area where voters have talked to me across the district, whether I'm out in Veneta, Dune City, Florence, Junction City area. People want to see that responsiveness that comes from an emergency situation. Imagine, so I'm somebody who, this is a little bit vulnerable of me to say, but I grew up in an environment where domestic violence occurred in my family. And when you have those kinds of situations that need to be intervened with, it's very tense and it's very urgent. You need to be able to have professional emergency responders in there without having to wait an hour for that kind of a service. I also strongly believe that first responders across the board, whether it's fire, EMS,
In all of our lives, we would not be dependent on SRS and other welfare payments from U.S. taxpayers.
All right, and for this next question, Heather Buck, your mic is not working very well, so what we're going to have to do is pass the green mic back and forth between you, just to make sure that everyone can hear you. All right, for our next question, Thomas Hira, you will answer this one first. There are a few different levers county commissioners can use to encourage housing production through supporting cities or incentivizing building in the unincorporated area. What strategies would you pursue as a county commissioner to increase our housing stock?
That's a great question and one that is going to be hard to answer in 1 minute, but I'll do my best. My father was homeless for much of my life when I was in high school and in college, and I later ended up experiencing homelessness in 2019 as well. I saw on the streets what it's like to have such a lack of resources compared to the need that we have here in Oregon and also very much so in Lane County. So I do believe that density in urban areas will allow people to have more economic vitality by having buildings with shared walls, perhaps with businesses on the bottom, but also that, for example, if we don't have adequate investment in affordable housing and that Homes for Good doesn't have enough projects out in the rural areas, ultimately what we're doing is we're sentencing those communities to no longer be able to serve the people that want to live there and no longer be able to serve those communities. So I really think we need a balanced approach that does identify areas where throughout rural West Lane, we need to see more affordable housing built, and we can't have any excuses.
If we had jobs in the woods like we used to have, we wouldn't need affordable housing. People would be able to afford housing, and that's what's needed. We don't need more poor people depending on the government. We need more working people contributing to the government.
All right, Heather?
Thank you. This is one of my most passionate subjects that I work on. I experienced housing instability as a child, and so I have a strong inclination to work on housing policy. And in this area, we know that cities will likely share the brunt of the burden to increase housing production, but counties have a large role to play as well. In this area, we also have been able to add a housing production manager to the team. And we have focused really on increasing land readiness. I mentioned this before with economic development. Housing and economic development partner and go very closely with one another. So the housing production needs infrastructure and wastewater to actually occur. And in cities, small towns where they're having issues with that, they often don't have a planning team to help them work through those issues. And that's where the county can really come in and help them so that they can then spur housing development.
And this next question, Mr. Zybek, you'll take first. The two districts candidates here today are running to represent are both at significant risk of natural disasters and wildfire. If you're elected county commissioner, how might you work to make your district more resilient against the effects of climate change?
The climate has always been changing. I think predictions from 30 years ago, I followed this issue very closely. We're all wrong. Florida is not underwater. We have snow on Mount Kilimanjaro, and the weather pattern here in Western Oregon has been about the same for 500 years. My PhD study was in my PhD research was in the study of Western Oregon wildfires, and the amount of wildfires we've had the last 5 years and the amount of fuel we got out there now is unprecedented. This hasn't been this way for 10,000 years. For the last 30 years, we've been building up these fire bombs, and for the last 5 years, 400,000 acres of East Lane County is burnt. Most of it's been put behind gates. It's destroyed campgrounds, and the communities have been subjected to toxic smoke. This needs to end. We need to put people back to work.
And Ms. Buck?
Thank you. As was alluded to, we know the strong effects of climate change in our region. We can pretty much count on a winter event of either ice and snow or a summer event of mega fires in our community. I have worked diligently with the Mackenzie River folks after the pure destruction of their community in the 2020 Labor Day fires. Climate change is real. It affects us every day. We are often really programmed to think that we're just going to be able to go in and put the fire out. The issue is we now know we are living with fire, and that is a cultural change for our community. We have, as was mentioned, a lot of fuels stored in our forests, and that needs to be addressed. We have seen from the federal government, they have disinvested from agencies that actually would be able to help with those fuel reductions. But here in our community, we can work on being prepared regardless.
Thank you. Thomas?
Given the federal landscape that treats climate change like it's a hoax, there is a limit to what Lane County can do. However, we have a lot we can do, and I'm proud of the climate legacy that we have here. I used to be a legislative intern with the Oregon League of Conservation Voters way back in 2013, organizing people to come to the state capitol and lobby for what I felt were common sense climate policies. And you could feel at that time that we weren't sure if we were winning this battle, and now, 13 years later, there's so much catching up that I feel we need to do. And the county does have a responsibility, just as do cities and the state. So one thing that is really important is making sure that we have preparedness in the event of a disaster like an earthquake. One story I can remember very briefly, I believe it was 5 years ago, the Holiday Farm Fire. This showed the transcendent nature of these disasters and how they can put on hold the kinds of petty divisions or the kinds of divisions that we see in society, where we had people who were protesting against police brutality and we had people who were protesting against those protesters. But when the Holiday Farm Fire happened, they came together and distributed aid, and that's what we need to do.
And for this next question, sorry, I think, Heather, you'll take this one first. Sorry, I lost track for a second. What a lot of people might not know is that Lane County is a healthcare provider operating community health centers, and they're also overseeing public health across our county. That's gotten more challenging this year with Medicaid cuts from the federal government and the loss locally of a Medicaid provider with Pacific Source. If you're elected county commissioner, what kind of work will you support to ensure your most vulnerable constituents can access the care that they need?
One of the biggest things that the county can do is ensure the viability of our 8 federally qualified healthcare clinics. As I mentioned, they serve over 30,000 people in our community, largely some of those that are most vulnerable and rely on Medicaid or Medicare in order to have coverage and seek services. We need to continue, as we have been, in advocating to the state and federal government about their effectiveness and their critical services. In addition to that, we have been able to expand those services. So even as the federal government has disinvested in our healthcare system, and we have seen vertical integration occur in other areas of our healthcare system throughout the community, we have been able to expand into our first rural area for a healthcare clinic. Those are the kinds of things that take years of planning and years of work to do, but they're so effective because in our rural communities, they need healthcare too.
Thomas?
I very much appreciate what some of the commissioners have brought forward to pursue that kind of rural health care. And one thing that I would also add, from talking to voters in Florence, I recently earned the endorsement of the Florence Area Democratic Club. So I've been out there on the coast talking with voters about what are you really experiencing. I don't want to just sort of caricaturize what a coastal experience is. I want to be out there and talk to the voters. And one of the things they said was that the county had bought a building to become a clinic out there in the Florence area, but unfortunately they weren't aware that there was a Montessori school right nearby, and that the methadone clinic as part of that county would be a concern and might potentially be in violation. So that's what I've heard from those voters, and that's an example of the county needs to fully be able to listen to these communities and deeply understand where they're at before they make a decision. So healthcare has been a very important component in my family. My dad was a single-payer healthcare activist, so I was going to events supporting single-payer since I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I think we need that kind of investment.
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but if we had jobs in our rural communities, we would have tens of millions of dollars in our county coffers. We would have people that could pay for doctor and medical care, that would help bring doctors and clinics back to these rural communities like there used to be. We had the Holiday Farm fire. Blue River still is not rebuilt. People are upset. The areas of Oak Ridge and West Fir are just a fraction of what they used to be. They used to be vibrant communities with good healthcare systems, with doctors in place. We can have that again if we go back to work in our public lands.
All right, and Thomas, you'll take this next question first. Our county may soon be at a crossroads with how we manage waste. Some communities' waste is being hauled by a private company to a landfill over 100 miles away, and that's left our system short on the cash it needs to manage transfer stations in rural districts. It's also put a strain on a big waste diversion project, the Clean Lane facility. If you're elected as county commissioner, how might you work to address this conflict?
The exciting thing about a county board is that there's 5 different members of the commission, and each of them has the ability to really significantly influence the direction we go, which is why we always talk about sort of the 3-2 split or 4-1 or whatever it may be. Ultimately, they need to be able to advocate for what the interests in their districts want, and also come together for all of us to thrive. So when it comes to the Clean Lane project, for example, I have heard, and I have a very open listening ear on this, right? Because I only started running last month officially, and some groups say that there is enough tonnage to support the project, and some groups say that there isn't. So I need to deeply consider and understand what the ramifications are going to be for our community, but ultimately, I will admit to you right now that I am still open to considering what those different options and solutions are, because that's a fundamental need of what our county does is waste management.
Here's where we need Jake Pelroy. He's the expert on Clean Lane. It's a family business has to deal with it. I trust his judgment. My concern is that this project, really expensive, was put in just like the $25,000 raise by county commissioners on their own without people being allowed to vote. And I think that people need to vote locally on these issues, whether it's a quarry in Oak Ridge or it's Clean Lane here closer to town. We need people to vote on local issues and have them decide and not have commissioners decide.
Thank you. We have a waste management system. We are one of the few areas in the state where our landfill is municipally owned. That means you, the taxpayers, own the asset of Short Mountain Landfill. And we have a corporate entity, Sanapak Waste Connections, based in Texas, coming in and hauling our waste elsewhere outside the community. And this is jeopardizing the 15 different transfer stations that we have in the rural areas so that people are not dumping their waste. We have what they say is in business speak, a vertical integration model where they come in, they try to capture the market, they set the rates, and they do not want the competition. it is important to know that Sanapak Waste Connections was the original bidder on the Clean Lane facility itself. So this is really just sour grapes.
All right. And for this next question, Bob, you'll take this next one first. Lane County immigrants and their families have been impacted significantly by a more aggressive immigration policy from the federal government. Lane County can't change federal policy, but it can help people who are vulnerable or displaced or impacted in other ways by immigration enforcement. If you're elected county commissioner, are there policies you'd like to pursue to support immigrant communities?
I think there's a lot of different layers to this. I'm personally in favor of working directly with the federal government to get rid of people that are being here illegally. And I'm not against the illegal aliens. I'm for them, for forestry jobs, for full-time citizenship, a path to citizenship. But I am against the people that take advantage of these individuals. We have too many businesses that hire illegal aliens and pay them under the table, underpay them, and in forestry, it's a particular problem. In my industry, reforestation, I was a vice president of Associated Reforestation Contractors. I had a 20-year career, and it was undermined, as with co-ops here in Eugene, by federal contracting with people that took advantage of illegal alien employees. I think they need a path to citizenship. They need full-time work, and I think if people are taking advantage of them, those are the people that we should be focused on, and that should be stopped.
Yep, Heather.
Our federal government has come after those in our immigrant communities like never before. We have a duty to protect folks in our care. Most folks coming into our country are coming for jobs and safety, and largely they are productive members of our community. In Cottage Grove, we had an example of Juanita, who owns a small business on downtown Main Street, and she was taken down savagely. And she was targeted purely for the color of her skin. She had done nothing wrong. And I am extremely proud of the county who came in and made a public statement, and we dedicated $200,000 to folks who have been affected by ICE in our community. We have a duty and the privilege of helping protect everybody in our community.
And Thomas?
Thank you. West Lane is full of a tremendous amount of humane, conscientious people who care about their neighbors. And I really want to bring the kind of representation back to West Lane that will also fight as strongly as those people want to fight to see their neighbors safe in our community. I'm an extreme skeptic of ICE. I'm an extreme skeptic of what Kristi Noem did with the agency, the DHS, all the money that she stole for her advertising campaign, $200+ million, totally fraudulent. And also, my mother is an immigrant. And I could tell you story after story of times that my mom was made to feel lesser in this community, despite the fact that she has worked really hard to help local Japanese restaurants thrive in our community here in Lane County. So I will say that it's very important to me to protect our immigrant neighbors, and that unfortunately, you know, I'm really not trying to throw a lot of mud, but the current commissioner voted against a statement that would protect immigrants and the trans community and immigrants here in our community. And I know that it's a hot issue, but I will never leave our trans community or our immigrants behind just for popularity's sake.
And for this next question, Heather Buck, you'll answer this one first. Lane County is now involved in the Bureau of Land Management's work to revise the Western Oregon Resource Management Plan, which will determine how hundreds of thousands of our public forest land is managed. Lane County is just one voice at the table, but as a county commissioner, what would you like to see, and what would you like that input to look like for how our forests should be managed?
I would like to see more time for our community to be able to put in a thorough amount of feedback to the federal government. It's really important also to note that federal forest policy is not the jurisdiction of county commissioners. We do not make policy or change the way the federal government or the state handles forestry operations. But we do have an advocacy role to play. And we have engaged as a partner to ensure that we have a voice at the table. However, the amount of time that the federal government has given for us to give any thorough amount of information and feedback to them has been narrowed to such a level that I'm not sure they're actually really interested in what we have to say. And first off, we have really been in a long time conversation in our community about forestry policy, and we deserve more time.
All right, Thomas?
Yeah, this is an issue where so many of the communities like Eugene and throughout Lane County have been able to thrive here over the last many, many decades because of the work that was done in the timber industry to make this an economically booming area. Now we've seen a lot of that has changed. And so we feel this cultural fracturing, frankly, where it's like when you're having an engagement and a discussion about this, it sometimes feels more like it's an us versus them than it is all of us coming together and talking about how we're going to continue to manage our forests responsibly. I do think that local control is something that this federal government has failed to particularly care about, and I agree with Commissioner Buck on that. So when they are coming after Western Oregon and deciding that they know what's best for our community, and I think Lane County residents and Oregonians know better.
This is definitely a county issue. The ONC lands were formed in 1937. There's only 18 counties in all of the United States. Lane County is one of the top 4 holding ONC properties. In 1937, the ONC lands were created out of 2.4 million acres, and the law says it's supposed to be sustainable yield. That means you don't log more than grows. So every year, from 1960 to 1990, we logged about 1 billion feet a year. It produced 7,000 or 8,000 jobs more than what we have now. Lane County was a principal beneficiary. The tens of millions of dollars made from those sales went directly to the county. In 1937, the ONC lands had about 50 billion board feet of timber on them. In 1990, after cutting 1 billion feet a year, it had 70 billion feet on it. We've got a fire hazard now. In 1970, I started contracting reforestation on ONC lands. They were entirely differently managed than now. Wednesday, I went out and looked at ONC lands, and there were a firebomb waiting to happen.
Thank you. And Thomas, you'll take this next question first. On the County Commission Board, over the last few years, there has been some discord, there has been some fracturing. How might you, if you're elected as a county commissioner, work to bring the board together and collaborate on thorny issues?
I'll get to that, but I just want to add one point to the last question. So much of the trees in the timber industry are embedded in our community that many communities in Lane County are named after trees. Oak Ridge, West Fir, Mapleton. So that's a very important issue to think about. As far as the collaboration that we want to see in restoring trust in our county, it is the case that an independent investigation found one of the commissioners to explicitly and blatantly to have retaliated against county workers because they had the audacity to exercise their right to file a workplace complaint about harassment. Now, you may agree or disagree about what you've heard third hand or through the news media about what those specific complaints were, but everybody in every workplace has a right to file a workplace harassment complaint. That is essential. Now, how does this come into my race? Unfortunately, my commissioner was the only vote against censuring that individual. And, you know, we may never get an apology from that individual. Sometimes in life, you don't get apologies from people that probably should apologize, but you shouldn't also cover their tracks and allow them to do whatever they want, which is a direct quote from that investigative report. I've read the 12-page report, and we need to come back and have trust in this county.
Last year, we had 3 county commissioners vote to give themselves a $25,000 raise. Now, we know what the problems are with the police and the schools, and this seemed like really an inappropriate time. So I'm not sure how we can get better coordination when there's such a division on how the county should operate and what it is we should be doing. We should be looking for more jobs, less government assistance, safer forests, cleaner air, as we used to have. We know how to do it. We should do it again.
All right. I have a naturally collaborative demeanor, and I work with folks from all different political persuasions. As you can imagine, the East Lane District has everybody from the super far left to everybody to the super far right. And it's important for me to work on the basic services that the county provides in order to help them get the resources that they need. That is what the county board should be focused on. It's also important to be as professional as you possibly can on the dais and off the dais. We work with people with respect, and it is a privilege to be your commissioner and be in office and really reflect what the community needs to those that have resources and have influence on changes in our community. I want to see everybody on our dais operate in the same way.
And now we're going to go to closing statements. And for closing statements, we're going to start with Bob Zyback.
In 2020, the Holiday Farm burned up 100,000 acres. In 2021, the Middle Fork Complex burned up 30,000 acres. In 2022, Cedar Creek Fire burnt 120,000 acres. In 2023, the Bedrock Fire burnt 30,000 acres. In 2024, the Lane 1 County burnt 65,000 acres. In 2025, the Immigrant Fire burnt 35,000 acres, including 15,000 acres of the Tumblebug Fire from 2009 that had never been harvested. We need to get back to work. We need to take care of these lands, and nothing is being done by the county commissioners to do that. We need to start paying attention to federal policies because that's what pays the bills. That's what puts people to work.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor, and I look forward to questions from the audience. Is that going to happen?
We are not doing questions.
We're not doing questions. Okay, so this is it. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to be running for this seat, and I wanted someone else to run and challenge this seat, but when I saw that there wasn't going to be a challenge for a race that's only up every 4 years, that's so critical to our community, I decided I had to leave my previous role that I love so much and that I worked hard to earn in order to run. And now, since doing that, I've been buoyed by a ton of enthusiasm from around our community. Elected officials including Florence City Councilor Sally Wantz, Siuslaw School Board member Maureen Miltenberger, the last 3 mayors of Eugene, Karin Knutson, Lucy Vinnis, who I have a history of critiquing very ferociously, but who has supported me last year and now this year in my current race, as well as Bethel School Board members Brian Hind and Dre Charles, and a whole long list of other endorsements you can find at thomasforwestlane.com. I'm currently the only candidate that has a public list of endorsements on their website, and so I'm very grateful to be transparent and talk to you about what your interests are, and I'd be honored to serve West Lane. Thank you.
Thank you again to the City Club for hosting this forum. Over the last 4 years, we've proven that we can make progress for our local communities despite the challenges, despite the chaos that's coming out of Washington, D.C. It is also through the collaboration of endorsers like Peter DeFazio, Ron Wyden, and elected mayors in my district that I've been able to maintain momentum. I have been able to lift up local workers and make sure that jobs stay here in Lane County. And as a result, I have been supported by Lane professional firefighters, the local building trades, SEIU, AFSCME, and many more. I've championed the rebuilding and recovery from the Holiday Farm fire by cutting through red tape and advocating for state land use laws that allow affordable housing in rural communities. I've been with these folks through the incredible devastation and trauma that they have suffered. I am deeply invested in their recovery, and I want to continue to help them rebuild their lives while preventing future fire damage. I've advocated for ongoing projects such as the Mental Healthcare Stabilization Center, the recent opening of our first rural healthcare center in Cottage Grove, and expanded mobile crisis care. I'm sorry, I thought we had 2 minutes at the end.
That's okay. We have 1 minute closing statements. Thank you so much, candidates, for all the way through this event, doing wonderful at keeping at that 60-second mark. And also, thank you, City Club audience, for being a wonderful audience today. And now I'll invite our City Club president back up. Thank you.
That's all the time we have for today. Please join me in thanking Heather Buck, Thomas Hura, and Rob Zyback. This has been our April 10th, 2026 conversation at the City Club of Eugene. We'll be back next week here at Wow Hall in downtown Eugene on Friday, April 17th at noon. That program will be our forum featuring the Democratic primary candidates for Congressional District 4. I'd also like to plug that the City Club of Springfield will be hosting a candidate forum for Commissioner District 2 next week on Thursday, April 16th at noon at Roaring Rapids Pizza. Thank you all and have a great week or weekend, and see you next time at City Club.